Welcome to Barbara's Bulletin, the podcast where we dive into the latest news and current events from around the world. I'm your host, Barbara, and I'm excited to share today's top stories with you. We're starting off today with a significant development in international politics. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy is set to meet with U.S. President Donald Trump at the White House on Monday, following a summit between Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska. What's interesting about this meeting is that Zelenskyy will be joined by several European leaders, including European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, French President Emmanuel Macron, and German Chancellor Friedrich Merz. This show of support from European leaders comes after Trump's summit with Putin, which did not result in a deal on the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. The Ukrainian government has been seeking international support in its efforts to resolve the conflict, and it appears that European leaders are rallying around Zelenskyy to ensure that Ukraine's interests are represented in any potential peace negotiations. It's worth noting that Trump has been pushing for a peace agreement to end the war in Ukraine, but the details of such an agreement are still unclear. The Ukrainian government has expressed concerns about being pressured into a deal that might not be in their best interests, and it seems that European leaders are trying to provide a counterbalance to any potential U.S.-Russia negotiations. We'll be keeping a close eye on this developing story and bringing you updates as more information becomes available. In the meantime, we want to hear from you. What do you think about the latest developments in Ukraine, and how do you think European leaders can best support the country's interests? Share your thoughts with us on social media using the hashtag #AIDailyPress. We'll be right back with more of today's top news on Barbara's Bulletin. Welcome back to Barbara's Bulletin. I'm your host, Barbara, and we're glad you're joining us again for this middle segment of our show. Today, we're taking a closer look at the recent developments in the aviation industry, specifically the situation with Air Canada. As many of you may know, Air Canada's flight attendants went on strike, causing significant disruptions to the airline's operations and affecting over 100,000 travelers worldwide. The strike was sparked by a dispute over pay and working conditions, with the union representing the flight attendants seeking better compensation and benefits. Now, I want to provide some context here. Air Canada had offered a 38% increase in total compensation over 4 years, which they claimed would make their flight attendants the best compensated in Canada. However, the union argued that this offer didn't go far enough, particularly considering the current rate of inflation. The Canadian government eventually stepped in, ordering the flight attendants back to work and referring the matter to the Canada Industrial Relations Board for arbitration. This move has been met with mixed reactions, with some arguing that it's necessary to prevent further disruptions to the economy, while others see it as an overreach of government power. It's worth noting that this isn't the first time the Canadian government has intervened in a labor dispute. Last year, they forced the country's 2 major railroads into arbitration with their labor union during a work stoppage. The union is currently suing the government, arguing that this kind of intervention undermines the collective bargaining process. As for Air Canada, they've announced plans to resume flights on Sunday, although it may take several days for their operations to return to normal. Passengers whose flights were impacted will be eligible for refunds or alternative travel arrangements. We'll continue to monitor this situation and provide updates as more information becomes available. In the meantime, we want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on the government's intervention in this labor dispute? Do you think it's necessary to prevent economic disruption, or does it set a worrying precedent for labor relations in Canada? Share your thoughts with us on social media using the hashtag #OBarbarsBulletin. We'll be right back after this break. Stay tuned for our final story of the day, right here on Barbara's Bulletin. Welcome back to Barbara's Bulletin. We're wrapping up today's show with a look at the latest developments in Bolivia, where the country is gearing up for a pivotal election that could have significant implications for its future. As we've been following, Bolivia has been experiencing a period of political upheaval, with former President Evo Morales barred from running in the current election due to a constitutional court ruling. His ally, President Luis Arce, has withdrawn his candidacy, and the party has nominated a new candidate, Eduardo del Castillo. However, Morales has thrown a wrench into the works by urging his supporters to deface their ballots or leave them blank, rather than backing the new candidate. This move has sparked concerns about the potential for social unrest, and has left many wondering what the outcome of the election will be. The two frontrunners in the election, Luis Doria Medina and Jorge Quiroga, are both familiar faces in Bolivian politics, having served in past neoliberal governments and run for president multiple times before. They've promised to implement austerity measures and eliminate subsidies, which has sparked concerns among some analysts about the potential impact on Bolivia's indigenous and impoverished communities. It's a complex and nuanced situation, and we'll be keeping a close eye on developments as the election approaches. With voting set to take place soon, all eyes will be on Bolivia to see what the future holds for this South American nation. That's all for today's Barbara's Bulletin. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, stay engaged.